Hello, good evening, and welcome back. So, new petrol and diesel car sales will be banned from 2030, 5 years earlier than planned, as government accelerates bid to tackle climate change. And this is all seen as a net positive, and it may very well be so. Except when it comes to the whole green agenda, the main thing to focus on is, but where does the electricity come from? That is the main issue. We haven't got to the point of harnessing lightning or being able to use the ionosphere in order to channel electrons down from our atmosphere. We're not able to harness the Van Halen belt or use anything from the sun at all when it comes to the electron storms. The only thing, as far as that's concerned, is solar panels using photovoltaic cells. But even then, you've got to think of, well, okay, but how are they created or produced or constructed? And what are the knock-on effects from them? And even more so than that is, but where do you store the electricity? Because at present, we don't have very energy-dense batteries. And the idea of a workaround is that we just have a smart system where everybody plugs things in even when they're not using them, and just as much as you can leave them plugged in, because then there'll be some other network, computerized AI, whatever it might be, which will pull electricity, discharge your device in order to charge up another device that needs it more urgently than you do. So now you're just part of a shared community. Definitely not communism in any way, though, at all. But it's that you can't expect a result, and you don't really own it anymore because you're just using it briefly, but somebody else can take it if they're perceived to be needing it more. So it's from those who have to those who need. Perfect. But really, in terms of making the electricity, we can't handle all electric cars at 2030. I mean, sure, it's new petrol and diesel car sales will be banned from 2030. A previous idea being 2035 and then phase out the other ones. The ones we use at the moment, which at the moment are more fuel efficient based on construction costs and how long the vehicles will last comparatively between being petrol or diesel compared to electric, and then hybrids, a whole other kettle of fish. But at present, as it stands, no chance can we even get close to providing the amount of electricity that is needed. So how will we do it? Well, renewables. No. In England, you might think, well, we're an island, in which case tidal energy, but we're not a big enough island for that. So, okay, you might think solar. So the UK has a reputation for lack of sun for a reason, but even then, you'd basically then have to have another government mandate to say, okay, everybody, every new home is built has to have south-facing solar panels. And then you'll start to get there. Where are you going to get all these solar panels from? Bloody good idea. And where are the materials for this going to be mined? Yeah, that's also a good point. How much has China already taken? So okay, fine. Well, obviously you can't use coal or gas. That's clearly unacceptable. In which case, what about nuclear power? Is that allowed? Because, of course, with the amount of litigation and red tape at the moment, it's very difficult to build power plants in the UK, and then trying to secure funding as well. Very conveniently, the latest one being built in Hinkley Point is also being paid, at least in part, by China, which is a bit too close of a relationship that I would like with our Chinese overlords. But that is how things stand at the moment, and that seems to be the way it'll go in the future then. So what, China is going to lend us the money in order to build these power plants, and then when we default on the loans, they're just going to take parts of our country, because that is how their debt trap diplomacy works. And is that how they're hoping then that the European Union is going to be tough on us with the negotiation talks, just so that they can pretend to be sweet and then take over the UK, as they're doing with other countries, including within the European Union, like Italy and Greece, with Trieste, for example, in Italy, with their port. Is that the plan then? Because as it stands, you just seem to be fucking yourself over. But of course not. Of course, this is only positive, because don't you know that earlier this week, environmentalists predicted that such a move would create more than 30,000 new jobs and provide a £4.2 billion boost to the economy. It's clearly only positives. I mean, let's not ignore how many tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands jobs will then go because of the technology that we use and is very reliable. Let's just, of course, ignore the fact that the cost of these things would be significantly more than £4.2 billion, bearing in mind it would also be the taxpayers who have to pay it in day-to-day lives, as well as, of course, paying taxes in order for this push to be subsidised, which makes the cost of living skyrocket for the rest of us. But the Financial Times reported the new timetable was not expected to apply to some hybrid cars, which use electric and fossil fuel propulsion, and could still be sold until 2035. Yeah, so they're pushing that 5 years later. But fossil fuel propulsion is brilliant. It's a combustion engine. Okay. But car firms are already preparing for the changes, as Department for Transport figures show sales of electric vehicles have rocketed by nearly 170% in the UK this year. Which is, I wouldn't say entirely, but Elon Musk has quite a lot to do with that, of course. The electric vehicles, or the hybrid vehicles, as we saw before, I'm sure we all remember the Toyota Prius and the whole kerfuffle with that and not really catching on at all. But then Elon Musk comes along with Tesla, and suddenly electric cars are cool. Was this down to government intervention? No. Was it down to an individual? Yes. Seems like that's a better way to do things then. And all of this, the overarching theme, is that this is apparently, supposedly, a conservative government doing this. It's supposed to be for individual freedoms. But no, it's just Carrie Simmons is in Boris's ear, and as Nigel Farage says with his many, many talks with Boris Johnson, that Boris Johnson just can't stand up for himself, and therefore the person who's really in charge seems to just be Carrie Simmons instead. And she's quite a fan of green politics, in which case that's what the Conservatives are going to be pushing for. It doesn't matter what millions of people vote for, it just matters what Carrie Simmons thinks is a good idea at the moment. And she isn't even somebody that was voted for, of course. But that's how things stand. So the Tories did win such a monumental victory, and yet they seem intent on throwing it all away. Grabbing defeat from the jaws of victory, if you will. And just to finish off with a lovely thought, if face masks worked, we wouldn't need another lockdown. But let me know what you guys think down below. Always intrigued to hear what you guys have to say. And as always, until next time, like, comment, share, subscribe, all the good stuff. Most of all, have a good one.